What's cracking, y'all? It's Nick Danger, aka Nick Digital, and you're now tuned into the art of MV, where we show you how to MV. Welcome back to the channel, and thanks for watching the video. We're about to react to a video, and then we're going to get into some MV shit. Let's get it.
Maschine shooting themselves in the foot. They're bringing integration with products that we use here over in the machine world and native instrument world and stuff that we've been using on this gear. This, you know what I mean, just the way we've been doing it. Now we're sharing our stuff with a competitor. Our competitor has touchscreen. Touchscreen has been a topic that hit very huge in a big way. This is one of the points in our community that we touch on quite a bit. I see it in my comments.
That is something that I actually like the option of having with the MV1 Verse Lab, is the fact that you have an option to have a touch screen, even a small touch screen like your cell phone, which is, you know, the big ones are pretty big. I mean, I've run my Zen Beats off my cell phone before, off my iPhone. It's quite convenient. You know, it's quite convenient. And you guys know how this one works. I mean, you guys can see basically you have access to your faders, you have access to your M effects with a double tap. You can open and close. You literally can take 2 faders at a time, so you can work 2 tracks at a time. You have open up, but you can open up M effects on your master bus just like that. Then you pull up the list just like that. I mean, it's really simple, unless your touch screen is very insensitive. It's very convenient, and that's why you see me go and fluctuate, which is what I always say. Get that version 3 where you can get it across platform.
The X and Y pad deal, you can touch. Now on our keys touchscreen with Akai products,
fair use.
You can do whatever you want, and I must admit this is done pretty nice. And I'm also thinking,
I'll
like,
put this guy's link in the comment section. Beat culture.
A whole lot better than what
got a lot of cool comment about the machine.
The actual design of it, period, is nice, and what you can do is nice. But how they designed it and optimized it for the MPC, I'm like, wow, it's pretty legit.
The machine community feels a kind of certain way about the news that happened at the recent NAMM about native instruments, Akai MPC merging, where the software from NI was going to be on the MPC platform. I guess maybe to some degree in standalone form, maybe. But the community feels a certain way. I really want to get to the brunt of this, because there's a reason for all this, why this coming full circle like this entertains me a little bit, and reason why I'm bringing it up. Let's get further in here.
So you put out best sounds, and you give it to the competitors with the best hardware. So how does that pull people to our side? That's very hard to convince the folk over there who has a dope hardware setup, touchscreen, may I be specific, touchscreen, and how their devices are
They're really big on that touchscreen, huh?
I think I would assume that it just makes sense. Everything is in this keyboard. This MPC key 37 right here has the machine and the complete control built in one device, right? That is the concept there.
Okay, so at this point, he's basically saying that the Akai has invited the better software to the Akai platform, and the Akai already has the better hardware. So people are going to flee the machine platform because the hardware is not keeping up with the standard that has been set by Akai, which, mind you, is a very high bar when it comes to ease of use. But that sounds like more about what he is kind of concerned with as a machine user, is that the machine hardware is falling behind. When the DAWs kind of came out and took over bedroom studios, DAWs like FL Studios, DAWs like Sonar Cakewalk and Logic and Cubase, when they became the bedroom default recording and sequencing not just recording, because people would have Pro Tools, it was simply for recording. But when FL Studio and Reasons made these plug-in sequencers and then made DAW, LE versions of their DAWs, people jumped on, and the MPCs and MV8000s of the world, the motifs, the workstation, had a steep decline in sales. Right? A couple of years later, in Native Instruments, a software company who had plugins that I use myself via FL Studio or whatever, they come in and they make this in Native Instruments Maschine with 16 pads to control their hardware, but it was more linear, not more like the MPC, more like an MV, to be perfectly honest. If you look at it, it was more like an MV. But the tactile 16 by the 4x4 16 pad matrix was in place, and so everybody got comfortable because the sound, the VSTs sounded so good. So that being very good sounding VSTs in your DAW, right? But now with them inviting them going over to Akai's platform, which was it's a better developed hardware at this point.
Now, I look at what MPC 3.0 offers. I understand from Akai's standpoint why they do it. Makes sense. They're trying to advance their platform. They're trying to move it forward. I get it. More power to them.
Once again,
but for me personally,
he identified it as a platform.
The MPC is to have the MPC workflow.
Okay.
It's not about trying to emulate a DAW. I don't need a standalone DAW. When I look at the feature set, the record track arm before you record, something that you really never had to do with a traditional MPC. That alone is a workflow kit.
So that's one part of what came out of this NAMM thing, but lo and behold, there's more, right?
Follow the producer. Woo! You already know what the vibes are. Video is MPC software users are not happy.
I will be putting the link to Av's page in the comments as well.
Okay, so first things first, I understand that some of you guys are upset that
how's the audio, gang?
Standalone units have been updated, and that the software has not been updated yet for, the 3.0. Some of you guys have been upset. I have been watching videos, and I have been seeing what you guys have been saying. However, we have to understand.
I have seen some videos too. And I think I'm going to check it out on my free time.
And EA Ski actually put this in perspective with me a long time ago. And we was on the phone talking about it, and I was like, hey, Akai needs to do this, Akai needs to do that. Basically telling me, you got to understand that Akai is a standalone company that just so happens to do software. It's not like Native Instruments where they're a software company that just so happens to do a standalone unit with the Maschine Plus. So we have to understand that a standalone type of a unit, okay? Starting off with the MIDI Production Center. That was the first thing with Roger Lynn.
MIDI Production Center, remember I said that.
Production Center, that's what it was called. Then they changed the name to a Music Production Center. It's not like Native Instruments where they're a software company that just so happens to do a standalone unit with the Maschine Plus.
During the MIDI Production Center time, one of the things that was getting Akai's ass was whooping, a company that was whooping Akai's ass was Native Instruments.
See,
and
that's what I
the
just
reason
said.
why they was whooping their ass is because they had a hybrid workflow.
Hybrid workflow.
Created a demand for this, so Akai switched the game up to do only MIDI controllers that work with the computer.
Starting with the
Similar
Renaissance.
to how the Machine at that particular time, which was whooping Akai's ass. So if we actually look at that aspect, Akai started with their MPC software, dropped the MPC Studio, you know, the one that, if I'm not mistaken, you were saying was the better one when the Mark II had dropped or whatnot. They were making good on the software because a lot of people were using it. A lot of people were enjoying it. And the Renaissance too, by the way. I almost forgot about the Renaissance. People like the Renaissance for what it was. Everybody out here in Atlanta had a huge departure to a lot of people, and a lot of people enjoyed the Standalone back in 2016, that they were going back to Standalone, and you know, it was going to be a hybrid controller. However,
You gotta love Av's honesty, man.
I ain't gonna hold you. I'm not gonna keep it PC.
I don't get why there was such an exodus from the DAWs to go DAWless, to be more creative, just to now be back in a DAW.
If you haven't noticed, a lot of 3.0 stuff has FL Studio type shit in there. Granted that the piano roll, or I don't call it a piano roll, I call it the grid.
All these things he's talking about right now came with the VGA expansion and the 3.5 expansion of the MV. The piano roll, the grid, the whole FL Studio look, that was all back in 2007 that it came out on the MVs. And the cool thing about that whole thing is that it gave you the tactile functionality of the panel and the mouse and everything. You didn't have to use one or the other. You could always use both. And I'm pretty sure, or I would think that the new MPCs would be that way, where you can do, once again, a hybrid kind of workflow, going back from the tactile hardware and the buttons on the panel to a mouse and a screen, but apparently that's not as comfortable. But then again, they all kind of looked at the MV like that as well. So it's not surprising that a linear style with a big screen would not be to most MPC lovers' liking, right? So at the end of it all, I tie it all in a bow to show you guys basically there's no designated workflow, and the MV was light years ahead of everybody by doing exactly what the MPC and the Maschine manufacturers are trying to do. Give you a self-contained recording apparatus in one unit. That's all the MPC X is now, right? It's the new MV. Guys are like, okay, we had this cool thing going where we had the best sounds and maybe not the greatest hardware, but we were banging out, right? And I followed a couple of those guys that don't use nothing but the native instrument stuff. And then you have our MPC users who have become addicted to hybrid sounds, but did not want the hybrid workflow. They wanted all the benefits of all that DAW stuff down into that simplified workflow. It's just not going to happen. So what they got was companies double back and basically trying to give them what Roland gave us nearly 20 years ago in the MV8800. Once the 3.5 came out, the 8000, 8800 were basically DAWs in a box, okay? I do think that it's basically the users. The users are not understanding you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have a powerful all-in-one unit without the workflow being a little bit complicated for what you're trying to get out of it. And that's what people need to understand about the MV. But if you understand where your MV comes from, you understand what you can get out of it. Like case in point. So the MV8000 and 8800 are basically in the same casing as the Roland VS 2400 CD, the last hard disk recorder they came out with, right? So it has all that stuff in it, and then paired with an S7 multi-sampler, a phrase sampler like the 808, and a bunch of effects. Now, the First Lab MV1, on the other hand, is based off a different VS technology. It's based off the technology that came with the Sonar Cakewalk as an interface, like Digidesign, or like what today would be probably in the category of like a universal audio. It was an interface with onboard DSP, had compressors, had everything you want on the bite-sized version of the VS700 was the 100, the one we're looking at right now. It's this exact same thing as the 8-track and the SD card reader on your MV1 Verse Lab. That's 8 in, 6 out. This is 8 in via USB, 4 out. Same shit. You know what I mean? So that with the Zencore engine, but it's based around the recorder part. It's not based around the beat making part. It's based around audio capture. You can control a DAW, like in this picture right here. All those computer screens, that little small M Audio workstation was all that I had. Everything else was a software VST, and I was just routing the outputs of the interface that the computer was going through into the inputs of the MV1 of the MV8000 and recording it as audio. There was a lot more going on at NAMM. Now let's get to some of the other stuff.
Forming with portable turntables, and so Korg has created this product here. Some things that are very unique about this product, it has a built-in crossfader inside of here, which we're able to do scratch DJing with. There's also, for those of you who do hamster style scratching, there's a little switch here for having this reverse as well. Some of the things that are very unique about this product here, it has a built-in loop feature.
Wow, that's
so we can keep playing records, and kind of transition records just by creating loops on here.
so you can have a loop, flip, change the vinyl,
and you can keep,
Very
yeah,
useful.
and
Very
just
useful.
cover a loop.
Old
and
school.
Old school style. But over here, I'll show you like on this recording feature, I could have, there's like in and out points here. So if you hear this guy.
So this is the one thing I saw that I probably would get from NAMM. I already have a little Ion record player, USB record player. I got it going through the Phantom. But this one has a fader on it, and you can scratch. It has a looper on it. Thing's $399, but I think it's well worth it. And it also has an effects send on the looper as well, like some kind of delay or something you could apply, man. Real cool, man, to scratch. That would be a cool match for the Verse Lab as well. So I think that's the one thing I saw at NAMM that I actually gravitated to. But do you know the first thing I actually saw at NAMM was this years ago? This was at NAMM as what was next. They said we had a bite down version of the 700. It does everything you want and blah, 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 blah. I mean, but it turned out to be, it's nothing ever came out on the market like that until probably the Tascam 12, Model 12. The Model 12 was probably one of the first things that came on the market that was even close to what this thing was. And this thing came out in like 2010. You know what I mean? So this thing is old, but it was a digital mixer. You see the 3 channels with the lights, the LEDs on? Those are all the analog tracks with the compressors. And actually the one next to it has a compressor, it's just not engaged. So 4 of your analog tracks on there had compressors. You know, so that was like a Model 8, you know what I mean? Real cool stuff, man. But I found that at NAMM. Have any of you guys ever had anything at NAMM that you actually liked, that you actually wound up picking up because you saw it at NAMM? Leave it in the comment section for me, man. And catch me on my lives coming soon, man. Thanks for watching the video. Peace.